Welcome back to Crafting and Relaxing. This is Sarah, and this weekend I went to the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo in Puyallup, Washington, and hopefully you're lucky enough to have one near you. Instead of making a haul video when I came home, I jumped right into playing with some of the products. And I tried to make you a detailed video, but I put my head in the way during a lot of it. So it's sort of an edited time-lapse video, if you will. So I purchased a Stamplistic stamp called Teardrops. That's the one you see in front of you. They're made in the USA. I wasn't familiar with their stamps, but after playing with this one for quite a few times, I love their stamps. I don't believe there's a die for this. I couldn't find one online, and a die is the metal thing that cuts out the shape when you run it through the machine. So I had to fussy cut it out with a pair of scissors, and I did that for one card, but I don't think I'll be doing that a whole lot. So what I'm doing right now is I'm using Versamark ink and stamping the image on watercolor paper, and then I'm gold embossing it. And if you're not familiar with heat embossing, go back and watch my Heat Embossing 101 video, and you'll notice that I forgot to use the static packet. It just sat there in that little bag the whole time. And this is the part where I'll look at the paper and realize that, because around the edges I have powder stuck. So I just came in with a brush, just a dry, clean brush, and pulled some of it off. And there's a little bit of a problem with that image, and I didn't think to clean off the stamp before I stamped it again, so that would have been the smart thing to do, because it might have just been excess ink on it. And when I say ink, it's Versamark ink. It's very thick and gooey, and it's clear. And then you'll see that the gold embossing powder is melting. And this is new embossing powder that I purchased, and I'm very happy with it. It's the Ranger Embossing Gold Super Fine Detail. And I've been very happy with it. I've used it quite a few times already in the last week or so. So I'm embossing it, and what I did this weekend was I just tried a bunch of different techniques with this stamp. Gold embossing and just stamping. I used watercolor pencils. I tried the Prismacolor markers. In this video, I'm using the water-based Tombow markers. Those are the dual tip. I actually bought these for hand lettering, which I don't have any videos on because you don't want to watch that. Just watch an expert. But any water-based markers that you have like this, you can do a lot of different techniques. So you can see there was a giant jump, and I've already colored in a bunch of it. I just wanted you to see the options. Even if you only have a couple of water-based markers, you can blend the colors. So think back to elementary school when you had your primary colors, and you can put them. I have the Tim Holtz Media Mat. You can use a cottage cheese container. You could use a paper plate. You could use a glass plate from your kitchen, whatever you have. Put ink and water or acrylic paint and water, and you could paint it in just like this. The reason I like to use the brush is because sometimes I'm unhappy when I use my markers because they're too dark. Copics and Prismacolors and those sorts of things have a lot of different colors and a lot of blending, but many markers that are much less expensive don't have that many options. So by using water, you can control how dark it is, and you can go back and darken it or add a different shade over it, whatever you want to do. Embossing adds texture. Using ink, water, that kind of thing, it sort of pools, so it makes it a little bit easy to stay in the lines. And you'll see this video is sped up, I think 1.5 times, but still, I'm not overthinking it or being too careful. And I did two different ones in watercolor. I'm not sure if I'll show the other video. I haven't looked at it to see how good it is or if my head covers it the entire time. The idea with markers and water is just the amazing flexibility that you have. And I wanted to be sure that you saw that and got an idea of how that goes on. You'll see a lot of interest or a lot of images on, say, Pinterest or Instagram, and you don't necessarily understand that you have products in your house that could do a lot of that stuff. You don't always have to go to the store. I just have various brushes sitting around that I use for all the same projects and different types of markers. The other thing about using the water and the brush is you can use any water-based markers that you have, which most markers are water-based. Only the much more expensive ones are alcohol-based. So you could use Crayolas, whatever you have, and even out the color between brands or blend different brands, that sort of thing. Here I'm using the same brand of marker, but it could have been a bunch of different ones. I just had these in the colors that I wanted to try. As I want the color lighter, I add more water, and if I want it darker, then I rub some straight out of the marker again. And that's why I have different areas on the glass, some with water, some with just direct ink straight out of it. So I'm just coloring this in, and you'll see that I'm touching it up to make the green a little bit darker. I maybe would have liked a little more contrast in the end when the dust settled, but I also was just practicing the technique and getting to know the different colors and how they worked. And I did colored pencils the day before, so I was trying something new and showing you my head. As you look at this, think about what stamps do you have that you could stamp and then color this way. This would be a good way to do animals. If you only have brown markers and maybe your markers don't blend very well, you could use a brush and water and get more variation in fur than you would normally get. This, you could color shapes like this, you could all kinds of things with just whatever brushes you have sitting around and markers. I also like to do acrylic paints for a lot of things because they're also very inexpensive. The Tombow markers, if you buy them individually, they're like $3 or so a piece. You can get them in a set and use a coupon, and it brings the price down a lot, but you pretty much can't beat a bottle of paint for 50 cents or $1 either. I like those. Let's see, I told you about the brand and where I got it. If you have the option to go to a stamp and scrapbook expo near you, definitely go. You'll notice I grabbed some more blue and I'm going back over it. So this is another good example of the flexibility that you have with water and brush. You're not committed. The other thing too is you can learn from this video, and I liked it better lighter, but then I liked it better darker because you guys know I'm a sucker for the royal blues. So you just see different things and you could try it. I also, when I used pencils or other markers, I colored in much more detail, and here I wanted bigger stripes of color so that I didn't have to go into so much detail. I'm just about ready to wrap it up. I just need to color in the center. And since I hadn't worked with this stamp very much, I couldn't decide how many different colors I wanted. And because I like things fairly simple, I didn't bring in every color of the rainbow. You might see one posted at some point that I did, and I have one on Instagram that I did with colored pencils that has many, many more colors. But I was just having fun kind of keeping this one with a mellow palette, not bringing in the entire rainbow. Just think about how you can apply this watercolor technique to other things. Also, you'll notice that I used a stamp positioner at the beginning of this video. I used the Tim Holtz stamp platform. I guess we don't call them positioners, stamp platform. This is a pretty large stamp. If you want to get really nice images, a stamp platform is the way to go. If you don't have a platform, no problem. Just put it on your acrylic block. Be sure you have a flat surface. Be sure you ink it up really well. And you might have to throw out an image or two. I was doing it on watercolor paper, which is a little more expensive. Since I had access to a platform, I used it. I also have decided to purchase one of my own because there are several instances where I think I would use it, and I don't have enough acrylic blocks anyway. I'm used to wood stamps where I can grab 10 different stamps and try them all. I thought, well, that's kind of frustrating, so I decided to get a platform. I think that's my update for now, and I'll post a new video again soon. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel, Crafting and Relaxing. Thanks. Bye-bye.